Welcome back, Wolf Gang. This is the Fantasy Fixers Podcast, and I'm your host, Winston Wolf. We have Week 12 in the review mirror, and I'm going to tell you the players to drop and ones to add for Week 13, along with the implications that they may have on your fantasy playoffs. Now, before I even get started, this is a gross list of guys to add. It's like touching a wet doorknob gross. That's what level it's on. But you have to make additions every week to make your team better. And depending on your matchup, you may be forced to pick up a player to prevent your opponent from picking said player up. For instance, if you're facing Najee Harris this week, I would pick up Benny Snell. Now, as you can tell from my screenshots, I get busy. Now, my goal is to get everyone that follows the channel and follow the Facebook page, the Fantasy Fixers, into the fantasy playoffs. After that, it's all up. Drop your fantasy questions in the comment sections. I'll be sure to get to them. Now, I don't always have the right answer, but I will always give you the stats on why I chose a player. Next week, I'll be doing a breakdown on the moves you need to make in preparation for the fantasy playoffs. We on a road to 200 subs, and there'll be a giveaway at that time. Let's start with the news and notes, and let's start with Najee Harris, who went down with an abdominal injury in Week 12. The backfield was split with McFarland and Benny Snell after Najee was ruled out in the third quarter. Benny Snell did look like the better back and should be prioritized first if Jaylen Warren is still dealing with the hamstring injury. CMC has a sore knee, and I hate to hear this because he has a wonderful sunny playoff schedule. Starting this week, the 49ers have 3 home games and 2 away games. The away games are Seattle, which could be bad, or bad weather. You start CMC no matter what. And Las Vegas. That matchup doesn't scare you, and it'll be nice and sunny there, hopefully. Eli Mitchell is expected to miss 6 to 8 weeks, so he can be dropped like a hot potato. Melvin Gordon signed with the Chiefs, and this is about as much news as knowing that it'll be a Thursday night game. Gordon was released because of fumbles, and it's only one thing that coaches hate more than fumbles. It's fumbles that they don't recover. So simply, this is a death move by CEH going out, and he only needs to play for the Raiders to get the AFC West Infinity Stone. Michael Carter of the Jets has a low ankle sprain, which is typically a 2-week absence. Darnell Mooney is out for the season. You have to be in a 43-man league to start him anyway, so he's probably not starting in your team. I hope he's not. Joe Mixon of the Bengals is still in concussion protocol, so Samaj P. Ryan could get another start. J.K. Dobbins is returning from IR, and this backfield is about as crowded as a 90s house party. I want no parts of it. Aaron Rodgers is dealing with a MAC rib injury and a thumb injury. More details later in the week, but he plans to play. Jamar Chase is set to return this week, and I can't wait. Travis Etienne went down with a foot injury, I think after like one play. He didn't want to risk it. Doug Peterson didn't want to risk putting him back in, even when he was cleared. So he said he should be able to play next week. Stay tuned. Deshaun Watson has been reinstated. He's with the Browns now. Josh Jacobs will be limited all week, but if he plays with 2 wooden legs, you still start him. All right, let's get to the drop list. And the first up is Kenyon Drake of the Baltimore Ravens. Yes, he had some spurts while the Gus Bus was sidelined, but he not only has to take a back seat to Gus, but J.K. Dobbins is back from IR. Drake had 2 carries and played on 25% of the snaps last week. That number can only go downtown. I guess the only way to my love. Next up on the drop list is Cam Akers. You can honestly put Kyren Williams on this list as well. I don't have faith in either. And I'm a guy that says I want the starting running back of just about anybody's team. Like if he's starting and getting 15 carries, I want him. Not so fast, my friend. Kyren Williams is 5'9", 194 pounds, runs a 4.6 40. If you're that slow, you better be a battering ram or LeGarrette Blount. And I'm not talking about the Blunt that played for the Patriots. I'm talking about Oregon's LeGarrette Blount that will punch you in the face after the game. You have to be that mean if you're that slow. And I don't think he's neither one of those. The Rams have the worst offensive line in football. Stafford and Kupp won't return for the season because they have nothing to play for. And why risk it? If Stafford isn't running the show, I want no parts of this offense. Now, if Stafford returns, then Van Jefferson is on my radar at that time. And lastly, the last person I have on this list to be dropped is Tyler Boyd of the Cincinnati Bengals. With the term of return of Jamar Chase, it's over. And I'm not talking about Undertaker. He could come back from the dead over. I'm talking about Macho Man Randy Savage. Oh, yeah, it's over. He was a wide receiver 4 without Chase on the field, so you can drop him in all formats with Chase returning. The number one QB to go and get is Trevor Lawrence, and I know he's 61% on. He's on in most leagues, and he's been about a hit as miss as Ben Simmons shooting a free throw. But I like his upcoming schedule a little, and a few games are indoors or in Jacksonville. And if you make it to the championship, they play the Texans, and depending on which QB you've been starting, they could be in some awful weather for the championship. For instance, the Dolphins play in New England. The Vikings play in Green Bay. That could get ugly. The number 2 QB to add is the masseuse mangler himself, Deshaun Watson, who is 58% owned. And I know what you're thinking. Why would I pick him up this late in the season? He has been with the team, etc., etc. But there's some guys that are rolling Matt Ryan and Russell Wilson out there every week, and I would rather throw a dart throw on Deshaun right now. The number 1 running back to add is Zonovan Knight of the New York Jets. Yes, I've never heard of him either, but the Jets were mighty comfortable with him as their heir apparent when James Robinson was a healthy scratch. Knight put up 103 yards in his debut. Looked like he's a solid pass catcher as well. He had 3 grabs of 34 yards, and if he can get the bulk of the carries for a week or two, it could be a solid flex play. 10 points. 5 catches, 50 yards. That's what you can hope for out of a player like this. But you got to be in a tight place in order to make the add and start. But if you started Cam Akers last week, you better put in 2 claims for Bam Knight. The number 2 running back to add is Benny Snell of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, if it comes out that Najee will miss substantial time, then you can swap Snell as a number 1 add as long as Jaylen Warren is out too. The number 1 wide receiver to own is Treylon Burks of the Tennessee Titans, who is 51% owned. And the reason he's on the top of this list because he could very well be the number 1 wide receiver for his team. In his last 2 games, he has 14 targets, 180 yards, and he has 50-yard bombs in back-to-back games. He's not going to see the volume that most wide receiver ones would of their team because of Derrick Henry, but I would drop Tyler Boyd from him. I would drop MVS, Mecole Hardman, players of that caliber for Burks right now. He's going to be the number 1 guy that they look to when they're not feeding Henry every down. The number 2 wide receiver to add is Zay Jones of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't know if I've ever put him on a waiver wire column throughout his entire career, but this is where we're at in life. He's 24% owned and has 4 games with 10 or more targets, 2 games with at least 8 targets. So he's getting crazy volume in the last 2 games. He has 24 targets, 19 receptions for 213 yards. So he got to be added right now. Now, let me tell you the guys I'm not adding. I don't understand picking up Odell when all the reports are saying that he won't play until late December. Now he's going to go to a contender, but if he chooses a team that's say in the next 2 weeks, will you really be willing to put him out there in your fantasy playoffs? I just can't take a chance like that on him or on Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions. Now, I do think Jameson was the best wide receiver of this class. Just think about it. He was a number 12 pick of the draft, and he had tore his ACL 4 to 5 months prior. The Lions are 4-7. Why rush him back with a team that the season they'll be done in 5 weeks? And that's where I'm at with the wide receivers this week. I don't have any tight ends to add, and you have to roll with the poo-poo tight end that's already on your team. Tight end is the only spot where I have to smoke a cigarette before I start one of the streamers that I have. It's that stressful, and I don't even smoke. The number 1 DST to add is the Seahawks. They haven't been as good as of lately, but they're facing the Rams, who probably won't play Stafford this week, and they play the Panthers next week. Good luck on your waivers. Thanks for being a part of the Fantasy Fixtures podcast. Road to 200. Good luck on your waivers. I'm out.